for $173 million. Rubenstein has been linked to wanting to purchase a Major League Baseball team before with Washington, but a Nationals deal never happened. The deal has to be approved by Major League Baseball. Owners have meetings next week, but it is not expected to happen that quickly to go to votes. David Rubenstein released a statement. It reads in part, "Our collective goal will be to bring a World Series trophy back to the city of Baltimore. To the fans, I say we do it for you and can't do it without you." And Cal Ripken Jr. on his social page is thanking Rubenstein for having him in the ownership group and wrote, "The Orioles have been a part of my life since I was a child, and this is a special day. I look forward to this opportunity and will do whatever I can to help the organization." There were two NFL head coach job openings still available at the start of today, Seattle and Washington. Ravens defensive coordinator Mike Macdonald interviewed for both, and Seattle did not let him leave. The Seahawks were very interested in Macdonald yesterday and in Seattle again today for that second in-person interview, and shortly after was named their head coach, leaving the Ravens after multiple seasons, but the last two being their defensive coordinator. The 36-year-old becomes the youngest head coach ever in the NFL and a huge talent leaving the Ravens.
Morgan, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 6 o'clock tonight, Marilyn Mosby takes a stand in her federal mortgage fraud trial. We take you live to Greenbelt with the latest on today's proceedings. Also, Maryland Democrats unveil their new crime plan, how Republican lawmakers are responding.
Marilyn Mosby takes a stand for the first time in her federal mortgage fraud trial. What we're learning tonight from her testimony. John Angelos agrees to sell the Orioles, how fans are reacting, and what it means for the future of the team. Top Democrats unveil their new crime plan, how their new legislative priorities are highlighting accountability.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 6.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Mary Bubala. Marilyn Mosby takes the stand, testifying for the first time in her federal mortgage fraud trial. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost was at the courthouse today. She joins us live from Greenbelt with the latest on today's proceedings. Mackenzie?
Yeah, Mary, it was a bit of a surprise to see Marilyn Mosby decide to take the stand, especially given the fact that she did not testify in her previous perjury trial back in November. But while on the stand today, it was testy at times, often facing some tough questions about her previous perjury conviction and the mortgage applications. Now, she admitted to not reading all of the mortgage documents that she filled out before she bought that home in Kissimmee, saying that she did not read everything before she signed it. But she did admit on the stand and under oath that she knew about the tax liability that her and her previous husband, Nick Mosby, carried in 2020. However, she said that she believed Nick Mosby was current on his installment payments with the IRS and did not believe she needed to list that on those mortgage applications. Now, she also told the jury that she believed Nick because of his previous comments that he had made to the public about taking care of the tax lien, as well as a conversation that she said she overheard Nick have with the president of Harbor Bank to take out a loan to pay off the tax lien. Now, we know based on Nick's previous testimony that that loan, the conversation about that loan never went forward because he decided not to utilize the high interest rate that he was given to take out that loan. Now, Nick also, as we know, testified that he lied to the people of Baltimore about paying off the tax lien. During cross-examination today, it was really abbreviated because it did not start until about 4 o'clock, and we expect prosecutors to continue probing Marilyn Mosby on the stand during cross-examination when court resumes tomorrow. Mary?
This is the 7th day of testimony, 3rd week of this trial. Any indication when this is going to wrap up?
Yeah, that was a big question from Judge Grigsby today. She's very cautious and recognizes the time commitment not only has everyone involved in the case has made, but also the jury. During jury selection, they were warned that this case would take about 3 weeks, or the potential for it to take 3 weeks. And now we're entering the final day tomorrow, since court does not hold hearings on Friday, at least in Judge Grigsby's court. The defense says that they could potentially call one more witness after Marilyn Mosby, and then we'll see a rebuttal case put on by the prosecutors. Now, prosecutors indicated that they may be able to rest tomorrow, but I have to tell you, Mary, given the pace of this case, the frequent breaks that we take, as well as the numerous sidebar conversations, it's possible that this case could stretch into next week as well. We're live in Greenbelt. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Many layers to this case. Mackenzie, thank you. Fox 45 has been following the Mosby case every step of the way. For our full reporting and the latest on the trial, head to foxbaltimore.com. Taking a live look at Camden Yards tonight as fans react to John Angelos' decision to sell the Orioles.
Hey, I'm proud of what they've done. I love it. I love the way that they building. They got a new team, right? It look like they might even go farther next year. So just anticipating on them having a winning season next year.
It's exciting to have new ownership that's coming in that hopefully will have a fresh approach to the team, and hopefully the Orioles can continue on their hot streak that they had this year.
Fans also say they're excited to see what kind of investment the new ownership group will make in the team and in Camden Yards. Now, John Angelos has agreed to sell the Orioles to a private equity firm. That firm has multiple names attached, including Baltimore native and billionaire David Rubenstein, billionaire Mike Bloomberg, Hall of Famer Cal Ripken Jr., and NBA legend Grant Hill. The Orioles expected to sell for more than $1.7 billion. Angelos will still serve as a senior advisor to the franchise. And while fans are generally excited about news of the sale agreement, state leaders feel a bit differently. During today's Board of Public Works meeting, the state treasurer said he feels lied to, referencing reports from the time the lease deal was made, saying the Angelos family told the governor they did not intend to sell the team. The governor agreeing with the treasurer, saying the public deserves transparency. Now, the governor assuring the public the lease agreement that they signed will not change under new ownership, and the Orioles will stay in Baltimore. He says he's excited for the new owners. Of course, this is a changing, developing story. We'll keep you updated both on air and online. Today, Maryland Democrats provided their solution to the state's ongoing juvenile crime crisis. The new legislative priorities are a response to criticism from victims, police, and prosecutors. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor has more on their plan.
Well, accountability was the word of the day today. Democrats saying that there needs to be more of it for both young offenders and the state juvenile justice system as a whole, a message that Republican lawmakers are in a rare agreement with.
We've been clear that any juvenile justice bill that comes to my desk must emphasize accountability. All right.
Maryland State Capitol building, a packed house Wednesday, as Governor Wes Moore shoulder to shoulder with dozens of Democratic lawmakers announcing a packed list of legislative priorities aimed at combating skyrocketing juvenile crime across the state.
We need to make sure that actions have consequences, yes. And we need to make sure that our kids are getting the rehabilitation that they need.
We must hold our state and our local agencies accountable for improving the juvenile justice system.
Major changes in the comprehensive plan requiring police to provide written documentation of youth taken into custody, shortening the deadline for DJS intake decisions, strengthening staffing within DJS's ankle monitoring unit, increasing probation limits for youth offenders, and allowing children under the age of 13 to be charged with certain violent crimes currently blocked under controversial reform laws.
And we're focusing on making sure that the system actually works to improve public safety and improve rehabilitation.
If passed, crimes those under 13 could once again be charged with, including firearm-related offenses, car thefts, sexual offenses, and animal abuse.
These crimes seem to be consistently the issues again from police officers, from hearing from them.
And probation limits would be extended from 6 months for a misdemeanor and 2 years for a felony to 18 months and 4 years, respectively.
What's happening is that when someone is placed on probation, the access to services isn't happening quick enough. And so the length of probation could be halfway over or the majority over before they even get enrolled into services.
Overall, Republican lawmakers applauding the calls for accountability and clearer consequences.
I was encouraged by the tone of the rhetoric that we heard today, and we also appreciate that they recognize the system is broken.
Senate Minority Whip Justin Reddy only pointing to one missing priority, legislation that would repeal the current Child Protection Interrogation Act, which mandates an attorney be present before juveniles can be questioned by police.
They have this bizarre view that we shouldn't have parents and children be able to work together to answer questions about crimes. We need to change that law.
A change many state and local law enforcement leaders have been pushing for.
It stops that juvenile from getting the services they need because you don't know what problem they actually have if you can't talk to them.
It has become more difficult for police to question young people about anything.
As Democrats double down, calling the law misunderstood.
The police officers' hands are not tied. We've also built in a public safety exception, so there's a wide berth of latitude for them to effectuate investigations. So as long as it's not an interrogation, they have the tools available.
Now again, overall, Republicans say that this is a plan that they are very much on board with. However, another concern that they have is that as this bill makes its way through the lengthy legislative process, that some of the tough on crime measures that are currently being proposed in this bill could become watered down. Only time will tell. For now, reporting in Annapolis, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Tonight, questions for the Department of Juvenile Services after a Project Baltimore investigation finds a 15-year-old convicted rapist attending a Maryland public school. DJS recommended probation and counseling for the teen who entered a plea to second-degree rape and was allowed to return to class at Patterson High School. Project Baltimore's Chris Papps tried to speak with the head of DJS, Vincent Schiraldi, at a recent event.
Sir, can you just give me one, if you give me a minute. What do you say to parents who had students that were in class with a convicted sex offender and they didn't know?
So I think that you should get the response for us in the proper way and not do paparazzi stuff right outside of
paparazzi? I'm at a public event, sir.
Tonight on Fox 45 News at 10, we'll have more on this story as Project Baltimore presses the head of DJS for some answers about this case. And we'll show you the video from his past where Vincent Schiraldi made strong comments on abolishing sex offender registries. In Baltimore County, we are learning about more opposition to a bill that some claim will bring an influx of apartments and redevelopment to their communities. Backed by County Executive Johnny Olszewski, Bill 324 looks to rezone certain aging, underutilized, or abandoned malls and shopping centers, paving the way for commercial and residential redevelopment. Olszewski says Baltimore County lags behind other jurisdictions with mixed-use zoning. But some in the county claim their communities are already overcrowded and are unable to accommodate potential expansion. District 7's county councilman is among those in strong opposition to this proposal. He's encouraging residents to weigh in as this debate continues. The zoning bill is scheduled for public discussion on February 13th.
The biggest names in tech butting heads with members of Congress about who's ultimately responsible for keeping kids safe online. I'm Atrell Nashar in Capitol Hill with a look at that disconnect and what it means for kids.
Social media CEOs in the hot seat today on Capitol Hill, appearing before lawmakers who accuse them of putting kids in danger with their platforms. Sinclair national correspondent Atrell Nashar was there. She joins us live. Atrell, so much emotion, so many powerful statements from the parents. Can we expect, though, any real change to come from this?
Good evening, Mary. You know, that's the frustrating part for parents, is that lawmakers and tech CEOs agree that more needs to be done to protect kids from harmful content on social media, like explicit images or cyberbullying. But their disagreements on how to do it, how it should be done, is getting in the way. From Silicon Valley to Capitol Hill,
concerned about kids' safety.
The most powerful executives in tech appearing before the Senate Judiciary Committee for what one lawmaker described as a pummeling.
You have a product that's killing people.
The issue at hand? Child sexual exploitation online. CEOs of Discord, Snap, TikTok, X, and Meta defending their practices in a room full of concerned parents, many who've lost their kids to suicide. Meta's Mark Zuckerberg addressing them directly.
No one should have to go through the things that your families have suffered. And this is why we invest so much and are going to continue doing industry-leading efforts.
Despite broad bipartisan support, Congress has failed to pass real reform, like eliminating platforms' protection from liability or requiring more in-app parental controls.
We can no longer trust big tech to do it on its own.
Now, it's not that these tech CEOs oppose regulation, period. They just have very different ideas than lawmakers about what that should look like. For example, Meta tells me they want to see legislation aimed at the App Store level so that app stores like Google's and Apple's would be legally required to have parental controls in place so that a parent could block their child from ever downloading Facebook or Instagram.
That really leaves parents with the same choice they have now, which is, do I let my kid use a platform that poses a lot of risks and a lot of potential harms, or do I stop them and isolate them from their peers?
Platforms like Snapchat, Facebook, and Instagram have implemented dozens of child safety features in recent years, but most on Capitol Hill aren't buying it. Do you think that they're genuinely interested in fixing the issue?
I think if they were genuinely interested, they wouldn't oppose everything we do.
So as you can see, there's this fundamental disconnect and lack of trust between Congress and big tech, which is stalling progress and leaving kids vulnerable every time they pick up their phones.
And Atra, if there is so much bipartisan support, we saw a lot of it today for social media regulation, why hasn't Congress managed to pass anything yet?
Mary, it's a question that is so simple. It's so frustrating because there's not a clear explanation from these policymakers. I've been asking members of the committee this yesterday, today, and some are quick to blame the lobbying efforts that tech companies have rolled out against certain bills or parts of certain bills. But the reality is, Mary, there is broad bipartisan support for these bills, and they have a strong chance of passing if only they were brought up for a vote. They've passed out of committee, many of them, but a full vote in the Senate, in the House, just hasn't happened because, you know, as we've been reporting in recent years and certainly months and weeks, Congress is so bogged down with other mandatory duties like trying to pass a budget.
Very frustrating for all those parents in attendance today. All right, Atra El-Nashar, thank you so much for reporting live from D.C. for us tonight. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, those watching our 6 o'clock news, a very warm welcome to our new chief meteorologist, Gerard Jabali. Welcome. We've introduced you at the 4 and 5, but 6 o'clock, we'd like to roll out the red carpet as well.
Wow,
so,
what an introduction. You gave that nice pregnant pause at the beginning. I just felt like we're about to have a trumpet heralding in.
I know.
Oh, man.
Bring in the
Mary.
flowers and the cake and everything. It's stuck in the hallway.
She's great, you guys. You have to really understand that Mary is one of the best people I met here, and it was easy choice for me once I met her. She talked to me about what it's like to work here at Fox 45. So thank you for the welcome. Thank you for welcoming me here, Baltimore. And this is a beautiful sight. What a great looking shot we have here of the Inner Harbor. And I've already gotten to enjoy a lot of things Baltimore has to offer. I know that you guys get great weather here. This may not be exactly what you had in mind, especially when I showed up for my first couple of weeks here and there was a pile of snow. Wow, that was an interesting thing when you guys haven't had any for about 2 years. Now things are a little different, but this is a little bit more typical. Okay, we're in the 40s now. Coastal flood advisory is in effect just for Anne Arundel County. That's until midnight tonight. So a little bit of very mild or moderate coastal flooding is all we have to worry about there. Just those places that can sometimes get a little bit of water inundation. So here is a storm system basically moving across the outer banks or across the Atlantic, out of the Outer Banks. Some clouds lingering, some chillier air lingering, but tomorrow I think we're only going to start out with at worst just some patchy fog, and we're going to be talking about some milder temperatures. However, they're not going to last long. Another shot of colder air is going to come in with this next front. That arrives on Friday. A chance for a shower or two as it goes by. Another storm system is going to be moving across the southeastern United States, likely going to miss us here. No moisture from it, but we're going to get wrapped into this side of it, which is bringing in more colder air. So again, another dip in our temperatures, not by much though. The next storm system that's going to likely have any major impacts around here may not arrive until we get closer to February 12th. That's 12 days away. The data is showing the storm system low confidence right now. Stay tuned, but some impact could be felt, including wind, rain, possibly some snowfall. Still way far out. We're going to watch the data carefully until then. Nothing happening until that point. So that's the good news. Tomorrow, still in the 40s, but reaching the 50s by the afternoon. So mostly good news there. And there's that front passage. We're only going to see a chance for a shower early early on Friday. We'll be back in a little bit talking about the 10-day forecast in just a bit.
Growing challenges from the influx of migrants in our country. I'm Christine Frizzell with a look at a brand new poll that shows just how much this issue weighs on voters' minds.
Tonight, another set of challenges stemming from the record number of migrants who have arrived at our border and have been allowed to remain in the country. Sinclair National Correspondent Christine Frizzell has the story.
For months, big city leaders have been begging for assistance to control the crowds. Now they're asking for help to control the crime. Migrants being blamed for this assault on police officers in New York City, and for forming pickpocketing teams in the West Village, and for violence inside migrant shelters.
Police say the two men got into a fight and one stabbed the other in the chest.
In Boston, a recreation center used for inner city kids and seniors now converted into a migrant shelter.
I definitely think that the community was not heard, or listened to.
The migrant crisis heating up the fight between the state of Texas and the federal government. Governor Greg Abbott revealing he's transported more than 102,000 migrants to sanctuary cities. Still, a minuscule fraction of the more than 2 million encountered at the southern border last year. The issue clearly spilling over onto the campaign trail. New numbers from a Bloomberg Morning Consult poll spelling it out. Those surveyed listing immigration as either somewhat or very important when deciding who to vote for, at 84%. And when asked how responsible Joe Biden is for the increase in migrants at the border, 61% said either somewhat or very responsible. House Republicans advancing an impeachment resolution against Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas.
I call him the architect of destruction and chaos. He has created this crisis, and he knows better.
Mayorkas, meanwhile, blaming Congress, where a solution is now in the works to heighten security at the border, but which Republicans have threatened to sink.
To be sure, we're not going to agree to a fix
that doesn't actually solve the problem. We would be derelict in our duty if we did that.
But Democrats and even some Republicans argue if GOP lawmakers tank the deal, then they own the problem.
All of those swing voters in swing states for whom the border is the #1 priority have every right to look at us and go, you blew your opportunity.
I'm Christine Frizzell reporting.
All right, here's a long-range look at everything, your 10-day forecast and more. I'll show you all of it here. So let's take a look. The next few days, we're still going to be fairly mild. We don't have to deal with a whole lot of rain, save for a chance for some showers on Friday. That, of course, is Groundhog Day. And that'll be the start of it, but I don't think it's going to last all day long. Sunshine coming your way for Saturday, Sunday. We're back to some cloud cover.